Welcome to a Daniel Vincent Podcast Life on Purpose. This week, we have a gentleman who is a producer for a TV show called Epilepsy Gangster. And he's also an author. This gentleman by the name of Tim Ulmer. Welcome, Tim.
Welcome. Nice to see you, Dan.
That's great. So Tim and I have had some discussions in the past, and we've spoke about different things. And very inspiring story behind this gentleman.
Well,
The things that I've heard, the things that he was sharing with me. I'm anxious for you to hear this. So Tim, so you've lived quite the life.
it's certainly been a busy one. No, there's been lots of uncertainties along the way, but that just keeps life exciting, keeps it from getting boring.
For sure. And not only has Tim been doing all this, that's in spite of suffering from a condition called epilepsy.
Well, let me say, Dan, I always hate it when people are talking about epilepsy and they use the word suffering. It's good. A good way to think of it is experiencing epilepsy or just having it. But once a person tells other people, "Oh, I suffer from epilepsy," they've lost the battle.
Yeah, it gives it a different connotation, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Fully agree. Wow. So this epilepsy. Now that you've brought up the topic, can you describe what seizures are? When your opinion, in your mind, what are seizures?
For mine, I have complex partial, and it can be very, very different. Typically, I would get dazed eyes, maybe smack my lips, and I have seen video of myself just staring at my hand, studying my hand like a chimp.
Wow.
But
Really?
yeah, but at the same time, I have gone on, and there have been times when I drove over 2 miles on a 8-lane expressway in Chicago. One time I conducted a TV news interview with somebody and helped set up the camera and stuff beforehand, all without realizing it. And one time when I was in China, I was walking down the street and had no idea how I got there because of the seizures. So I have a thing now called a vagus nerve stimulator, which makes my seizures less frequent and less severe. And it's possible that unless somebody's having a conversation with me right now, when a seizure would start, they might not realize I was having a seizure.
Wow. So you're not aware. So when you get that seizure, you're not aware of what's going on.
That's right.
Okay.
Sometimes it has an aura, and
Okay. What's an aura?
Well, that's always different for everybody with epilepsy, but it's think of it as a mini seizure. You're starting to fall into a seizure. You're not there yet. This is where reality starts to slip away from you. Okay. And so I'd get a tingly feeling over my hands. I'd get a sense of deja vu. Yep. I've been in this chair before. I think I've talked to Dan 5 or 6 times before, but I can't think where or when. I know Dan from someplace close. He's interviewed me. And then when I was a kid, I'd even have hallucinations. Okay. But that's the auras. And then it's after the auras set in that I would do those other things.
So I've witnessed your voice changing just the way it is now. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I have an implant that's right here, but it's hooked up to the vagus nerve in my neck. The vagus nerve, and it's called a vagus nerve stimulator. It's about the size of $2 half dollars. and stacked on each other. And what it does is every 5 minutes, it sends an electrical charge
Right.
up to this vagus nerve, which is a pipeline into the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a pacemaker for a person's heart. And every 5 minutes, it fires for 30 seconds. And if I feel a seizure coming on, I've got a magnet I carry clipped to my belt,
Mm-hmm.
and I can just put it on my thing, and it fires all over again.
Wow.
And
So that's just amazing that they can do that.
I've had it for 7 years, and the technology's been around for 20.
So do you have to change the batteries at all? Do you?
About every 5 years. Maybe 7 years.
Okay,
Depends on how often you use it.
Okay, you wouldn't want that to die off.
No.
What would happen if the battery would just fail?
Then you're on your own, like you normally would be without it. So,
okay.
In my case, it lessened the frequency of my seizures.
Mm-hmm.
Went from like about every 8 days to then about a month, and it also cut down the severity, so it wouldn't be as noticeable to people.
Okay, wow. So so these are things that I've never had to go through, or I've never heard of until just recently, I guess. How long has this VNS system been around for?
I think it's about 20 years, but
okay.
I didn't want to get it until 2013. My doctor had been interested in me doing it for a while, but I associated it with having a lobectomy or something, and I did not want to have part of my brain removed.
Okay.
And I just realized that I needed it as much for my just as much for my own safety as what my little girl needed me to be safe. And so I did it for her, so
nice.
so that I could I'd be less threatening to her if I had a seizure and I was taking care of her.
Right. I get the goosebumps just by you saying that. Wow. So it's and you mentioned that you got this which is alternative instead of having your part of your brain removed.
Yeah.
So this is something, because I went the other route where I got part of the brain removed.
Yeah.
Where they did a lobectomy from the brain. So the whole right temporal lobe is apparently mostly gone.
Well, I would never know it if you didn't tell me. You've recovered very well. So
it's amazing enough. But 5 years ago, I was at a neurosurgeon's office for a completely different different issue, and I walked in, and this neurosurgeon asked me about my past, because she had taken a scan of my neck. So, and she asked me if I had a concussion or something that would have drastically impeded on my brain. I explained to her my situation about my epilepsy and that I had the right temporal lobe removed. She said, "Oh, well, that explains what had happened." But the way I explained it was a little different, because at the time I didn't know that what they had done. All they had told me was that they removed the skull and got in there with a little vacuum to clean up some of the dead brain cells that were causing the seizures, or the electrical current to short out, which in turn would cause the seizures. And so I that's what I explained to her. And then this is when she grinned and nodded. And right there, I knew she was witnessing my history from 30 plus years ago. So I asked her to share this with me, the scan. So I'm looking at the scan, and right there, I was confused. So I asked this neurosurgeon, says, ma'am, I said, what is the little white spot on top of my head? And this is when she proceeded to tell me, it says, well, that's the void in your brain. In my thought, there was no way that I could have such a void. So I turned the page around and I showed her, and she smiled, says, yeah, that's the void. Because you know what it looked like? It looked like a printer ran out of ink, and you replace the cartridges, run another sheet, and all of a sudden there's a blotch. There's something that's not right.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I thought that's what I thought I was looking at. But and then she says, yeah, that's the void in your brain. And that's, my jaw just dropped. I asked her, says, how
void, are you talking about the skull after it had been removed, or are you talking about the dead material and the gray matter?
What I could see,
material in your brain?
The skull, they removed the skull, and then they removed part of the brain, and then they closed me up again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming they added fluid and did their own thing.
Yeah.
But at that, then I got home, and I was just baffled. And I got home, and I told my wife, says, guess what? Guess what I just found out today? And I explained this to her. Says, what? So, and she asked me to knock on my head. And I did. And I said, knock on the other side. And she starts laughing. Says, do it again. And I did again. Look. And laughs even harder, hysterically. And I'm thinking to myself, she wanted me to do it again. Says, whoa, what are you laughing at? I had no idea. If you knock on your own head, you don't hear a difference. But she was hearing a void from one side to the next.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's just absolutely crazy. Now, to this day, I asked the doctor, says, how am I even functioning now? And this is when she told me that the brain has a way to remap itself. In your case, this is what happened. Just, wow. But there's a time when I had to relearn how to walk.
Yeah.
How to speak. Because everything was so slow. It took me quite some time to get back into shape.
So it was your right hemisphere that was removed?
That's correct.
Yeah. So that's like emotion and creativity and personality.
Yeah, the crazy part, it is. But the crazy part is that I am very creative.
You always seem that way to me.
Yeah, I'm creative. My emotions are they can be quite heavy. I don't hold back. So so somehow the left part really took over where the right part left off.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, no kidding. It really is fascinating.
Do you think some of that transfer could have been made years earlier as your epilepsy began? And so it wasn't a big change. The left side had already been doing a lot of the work.
Oh, it's never crossed my mind. It could be. It could be.
So the right side might have been defunct for years.
Yeah, prior to the surgery, because the surgery was done when I was 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You
had surgery back then, so and I first had surgery brought up to me in 92 or 92.
Right.
But then I brushed it off because it was in the right temporal lobe, right in the middle of creativity and emotion. And I'm wanting to be a writer. And so no way did I want anyone to go in and disturb, maybe cut out some neurons that were going to be my golden future.
So you knew about the brain. You had done some research already.
Yeah. But I worked in Los Angeles for a while, and I went to epilepsy support group out there, and all the members had surgery. And we're talking, but your viewers have got to keep in mind, I'm talking 20 years ago, or more like 30 years ago. And so surgery was still very primitive back then. And like one guy was happy not to have seizures anymore, but he couldn't turn his waist.
Oh.
Or he couldn't turn his neck. He had to turn his whole body.
Oh, so the whole thing had to shift.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another woman sat like this, and she told me she was glad she had the surgery because now no one would look at her oddly. Okay. And I'm thinking, no one looks at you oddly, and she for that. And
right.
Yeah, according to her, she was having seizures a couple of times a day, and she said, "Oh, I'm so glad not to have those anymore because no one will look at me for being strange."
Oh.
And frankly, they scared me. And so I swore I'd never do it. And by the time my current epileptologist brought it up, he had me in the hospital for 5 nights for EEG. Right. Probably like I'm sure you went through for your surgery. And he said that over the years, the electrical shock had destroyed enough neurons that got over into the left hemisphere too.
Really?
So you couldn't just go in and casually remove it anymore. It was inoperable. And so that's why he came up with the idea of trying the VNS.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. So that term had never been brought up to me at the time when I was 18, and the only option that I had was that surgery. And you had a step above me for understanding the brain because I did not. My parents certainly didn't. They're not educated in that area of life. Or dad was a miner.
Yeah.
And mom's a bus driver. So it's So this isn't completely foreign to them. So we just went along with the doctor. So the doctor asked me initially, then he said, "Would you be interested in going for surgery?" And I looked at him and says, "A way to change my life? Yeah, for sure." I said, "What are my chances?" And he grinned at me and he says, "Your chance would be about 98%. I says, "Wow, really? Hey, where do I sign a dotted line?" Yeah, at 98%. Hey, those are pretty good odds. He says, "Well, not so quick. I need to inform you that you'd be the 14th patient in the world to ever undergo this surgery." I says, the 14th was it the 14th or 18th? And I said, "Wow, how did he get 98%?" This maybe that wasn't the right question to ask.
Yeah.
So I took a step back and I thought about it, and at that age, I was actually now at age of consent. It was no longer my parents' decision. It's my own. At 18 years old, I had to take my own life in my own hands. Wow. So I approached the doctor again, and cautiously, I asked him, "What if I don't?" And he paused, didn't say a word. Here's a tall man. He's tall, had broad shoulders, had huge hands, fingers like sausage.
Yeah.
Like intimidating, square jaw. But he looked scared.
And you sound like Herman Munster.
Yeah, somewhat. But he looked scared. So if he was scared, you can just imagine how I felt at 18 years old. So I braced myself. I said, "Okay, doc, let me have it. Whatever you're going to say, just say it." So he approached me and says, "Okay, if you continue on having these seizures, you are slowly turning into a..." Then he paused. Says,
"Whoa."
Says, "A vegetable." And that's exactly what he told me. It's exactly how he approached me about it. Says, "Really?" And when he said that, my heart sank. I felt sick to my stomach.
Well, it didn't matter to you whether you'd be a potato or whether you'd be asparagus?
It sure did.
Ha ha ha. Okay.
It sure
That's
did.
that's
That's why,
that's
yeah,
that's
that's why I felt so, I felt like vomiting. Says, what do I do?
hmm.
But then it took a moment, and I knew what I really didn't want. I didn't want to be a burden to society any more than I already was.
Good for you.
So what do I do? So I gambled. I put my life in his hands, his own hands, and I let him do his thing, and he did. Turned out that with the slice of a knife, they were able to remove all those seizures that you could see. Me shaking on the ground, all those grand malls that I was having, those tonic-clonics, they were gone.
Yeah.
They were gone.
What year was this?
This was in 1984.
Oh, even earlier than my encounter with the people in Los Angeles.
All right, because that's when they told me, said you'll be the 14th or 18th patient in the world to ever undergo this.
You were that much of a pioneer. Wow.
So it's and here I am. Here I am. There's been a lot of rehabilitation afterwards. A lot of my own rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've had one friend who had a seizure, and unfortunately, it changed his. He'd been a near, and when he came out of it, doctor asked him what 100 plus 4 was, and not only could he not do the math, he didn't know what numbers were, and this was a civil engineer.
Wow.
And his surgery also changed his personality so much that his wife said, "You're not the man that I married."
Ooh.
And they wound up getting a divorce. So it's that was a tough story, but at the same time, I've got another guess. Let me say though, that guy turned a negative into a positive because he went back to college and he got a degree in counseling, and he's a counselor to disabled people now.
Oh, good for him.
So don't think that he wound up a drag on society, because he's every bit as productive now as he was before.
Right.
It's just in a different field. And I had another guest on my show who was an opera singer. Right. And he was so nervous about the surgeons going in, cutting out the wrong neurons, that they didn't have to put him under, because the brain doesn't have feelings, doesn't need anesthetic on the brain. And so he said that while they were operating on him, he was singing operas in 5 different languages. And there were 30 people outside the OR listening to him perform during his surgery.
Wow, that's crazy.
That was about 5 years. That was about 4 years ago. So
okay,
things are getting easier and easier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. You're explaining that, and I remember when they didn't put me to sleep.
Yeah.
No, I had to be awake so that I could be answering questions as they were doing the procedures. Answer questions or speak, as they wanted to make sure they weren't affecting my speech or my memory or whatever they were doing.
Well, my praise to your doctor, because if we were just meeting at the Starbucks over coffee and we didn't know each other's background, I'd have absolutely no idea that such a performance had been done.
Wow,
and I
really?
think people need to have more courage when they go out with epilepsy, and not worry about what others people would think. I'd have no idea that you were epileptic.
Wow.
Just to meet you on the street. My compliments.
Yeah, well, thanks. Huh. That's the one thing that you can't see is where my memory's at.
Oh yeah?
It's my visual memory is not there.
Your what? Your visual memory?
The visual memory. That's right.
What do you mean by the visual memory?
As an example, if I measure something, I look at it, remove the tape, I'll forget. Now, if I meet someone, speak with a person for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, leave, go back 5 minutes, I won't recognize that person.
Interesting. I haven't heard of that symptom before.
Yeah, and it's in times it can be almost feels embarrassing. In certain predicaments, I've come to terms where this is what it is, because I can't really explain to everyone exactly what's going on. I recall this one instance where I was at a funeral wake. So I went in there and I was introduced to a lady who I spoke with for half an hour. Then I got up and I went over to another place. I started looking at photos, and this other lady comes up and started talking with me. And I sparked a conversation and started talking. And I asked her where she was from. And she told me, and when she told me, I noticed she had a puzzled look on her face. That's the lady I was just speaking with for half an hour. So it's
really.
And how do you explain? You can't just come up and explain the situation to everyone.
Right.
Yeah. So some people will, you can move into the conversation, but when you're there just for a little bit and you got to move on, then it becomes difficult. But it is what it is, right?
Yeah. Something I like is I do lots of walking through my neighborhood with my dog, and everyone feels good when someone else says hi to them by their name. Yes. Hi, Dan. How are you?
That's right.
They don't just say hi; they say hi, Dan.
Wow.
Hi, Tim. How are you? Well, I try to do that, but this is somebody. Maybe I pass this person maybe for 30 seconds 3 times a week.
Right.
And I'll tell them my name, and I'll ask them for theirs.
Right.
And I say, now don't count on me to remember it, because odds are I won't. The thing that's always funny is they'll always say, usually these so-called normal people, or presumably normal people, have the same problem with names, and so I don't care anymore.
Okay.
They just appreciate that I've made the effort to say hello to them and to greet them with a smile, and so they don't care if I mess up their names.
Wow, that's and you understand, and it just moves on.
I actually think when we can be that way, and we ask them, and we introduce ourselves and ask them for their name, we actually come out to looking the stronger people, because we've got the boldness to reach out to them and
That's
say
right.
hello.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely correct.
So they won't see us as being weak at all.
Right. So, Tim, tell me about your time in China.
I was working as a TV news producer in Southern Illinois, and one of the reporters I produced for, she took the teaching job over there, and I was getting so tired. Every day she'd send emails telling them about these getting to see the Great Wall of China, or getting to go to a forbidden city, or something. I'm stuck in this desk, and I'm working at a studio that my dad has to drive me to and from each day, and I just seem to be going nowhere. And I'm getting these daily emails from her talking about how great life was. And I became friends with a professor at Southern Illinois University, actually a dean, and he was in charge of foreign affairs. And he said, if you would ever like to teach English someplace in the world, let me know. I'll see if I can find you a job. And it turned out that one day I got passed over for a promotion because I wasn't experienced enough. And a few weeks later, I found out that I was teaching the job to the nephew of the station owner. And And yet I was not experienced enough for the job, but I'm teaching this guy the skills. I got on the telephone and called the guy and said, "Hey, give me a job, get me out of here."
Right.
And
Okay.
he called me and they had a sister school, Northeast Normal University in Changchun. It's just west of North Korea and just south of Russia. 24 degrees below zero in the wintertime. And
Wow.
asked if I'd like it. Well, at first I didn't want to go. I'd heard about a lot of human rights violations. The foreign affairs back then were terrible. There was a big scandal where a Chinese spy had been working at the Los Alamos nuclear weapons lab for 4 years. The president had taken $25 million from the Chinese government through a Chinese American businessman.
Right.
The Chinese Air Force had caused the U.S. Navy aircraft to crash. So I just hated the country. But I talked to a lot of people. I was convinced. I was told basically we need to know as much about them as they want to know about us. Take the job. And I still didn't know about it because I really believed in doing a job for my country, the United States. My biggest dream as a kid was going to the Navy Academy. And I come from a long history of soldiers and sailors. Military. I was the only one in this generation who wanted military service, and I was the only one of my family and cousins who couldn't have it.
Yeah, can you touch on that? Because that was actually one of my questions for you.
I know I've had 5 ancestors that trace back to the American Revolution, and my 5th great grandfather, General Winfield Scott, happened to invade Mexico and conquer Mexico City in 1846. And he was my ancestor, and my grandfather got a Purple Heart and Bronze Star in World War I. Dad served in the Navy in Korea. So
you've got a whole family history of it.
It was just I had an uncle, and a 3-time removed uncle, 2 uncles fight each other in the American Civil War.
Really?
And formal or military service was just part of our blood, and I was very proud of it. And I was so discouraged when the Navy,
for sure,
my congressman was willing to give me the appointment to the Navy Academy, but the Navy said there's no room in the military for a person with your handicap.
Right, because you wanted to keep the service line going in your family.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And I was the only one of my generation who wanted it.
Yeah. And so just as you're saying this, my heart goes to everyone who's serving. It really does.
Yeah. To me, there's no greater gift you can give your country than, I don't like to say die for your country. General Patton said there's no such, no man ever won a war by dying for his country. He won it by making the other man die for his. Okay. So I won't say that the best thing you can do for your country is die for your country. But basically, I see when you sign up in the military, you're lending your life to your nation and the people in your nation. And I was willing to do that. And so when I thought about, here's this country, China, who I really disliked, and they're asking me to come and teach them a skill like English, I wondered if I wasn't committing treason against the United States of America like a spy.
Oh.
But I finally decided, or what made me decide to go was an encounter with a woman I had on a train. I was living in Southern Illinois. I was going up to Chicago, catching a train to Chicago for a weekend with friends. And while I was there, I thought, well, I'd still go to the Chinese consulate and apply for a visa. Okay. Whether I took it, I don't know. But what was interesting was the guy, halfway up to Chicago at the University of Illinois, the train stopped and a nice looking Asian woman got aboard. she saw me reading a Photo's travel guide of China. And she said, "Oh, are you taking a trip to China?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm thinking about a job." And without telling me, or without asking me what the job was, she said, "Go.
Oh.
Take the job." And I thought, God, she didn't know what I was talking about. I could have been talking about a job as a computer engineer. I could have been talking about a job as a bellhop.
So it could have been anything.
Yeah, but she said, "Go, take the job."
Wow.
And came to find out that she was actually Korean, and her uncle was had been a missionary, but he had been going to China for several years under the cover of a work permit as a businessman selling computers. And he'd go over there for 90 days at a time, and he would be secretly preaching underground. Christians. She told me the people are hungry for learning about Christianity. They're hungry. Go. And it turned out she told me about going herself and described the people some more to me. And I really found the conversation refreshing. And we were going to be taking the same train back home the following Monday. She didn't show up. We were going to, and I tried calling her office at the University of Illinois 2 days later to see how her trip went. By the way, she was going to a gospel choir competition. And turned out when I called the office, Department of Mathematics at the university, they said she doesn't work here. I said, "Well, could you look her up in your directory for me?" And they said, "No, she died 3 years ago of pneumonia." I said, "Are you talking about the same woman?" And tell me, was she very religious? And said, "Oh yeah, she led a choir." And oh God.
So that was the gal.
After that, I thought that was like a real blow to the face of take the job. God wanted me to go over there. I didn't understand what was going on yet, but I went ahead, called the dean at the university, and said, "I'll take the job."
Okay. But while you were there, did you do any advocacy for epilepsy?
Actually, I was told not to. Because most people don't even know what the word is. It's Yonxiong. And that's only seizure, and it's not so it could be any kind of seizure. Over there at the time I was there, 2002 to 4, parents of infants with epilepsy were allowed to let their children die. If children had seizures at school, they'd be pulled out of school. The people would just decide, hey, they've got a damaged mind. Nothing will ever come to them, so there's no point in wasting money in education. If it happened to them at work as an adult, they wouldn't get promoted again, would likely get demoted.
So they were treated quite differently. They were treated quite differently.
We don't realize how well we're treated. Yes, America and Canada, the West still has loads of education to do on the public, but these people didn't even know what it was. One day in class, so I had graduate students, about 70 students, and I just backed up against the wall, back against the classroom wall, and I slid myself down and put my arm on my knees and slept for about 2 minutes. And when I came to, they were startled. No one knew what was going on. I just had an epileptic seizure. You've just seen an epileptic seizure for the first time. And they were shocked. They'd never seen it before. And they would, the students wondered then, why would I be willing to quit a job in the United States to come there with my sickness. They always called it a sickness.
Okay.
And I said, it's not, it's something I've learned how to live with. It's no big deal. I said, I could have during a seizure, I could get hurt just as easily falling off a ladder, painting my living room as what I could crossing the street in front of your campus,
right,
and getting hit by a car. So when the professor asked me if I'd like to come teach, I thought, why not? And they were shocked by that. And when I come out of a seizure, it's still, I can be very coherent for 5 to 10 minutes, but really not be aware of what I'm talking about. Okay. And it was in my contract, do not talk religion to staff, students, or faculty, or you'll be fired immediately and expelled from the country at your own expense.
Ooh.
Very strict.
Sounds very harsh.
It was. Okay. And the Communist Party professes atheism. And so during that groggy time after a seizure, and when they're asking me if I wasn't afraid, I said, no, I wasn't afraid. I know for a fact 5 times God saved my life in car accidents when I should have been killed. As it was, I was never injured. No other drivers were injured. Okay. And so I know that God would look out for me. So why not come? Well, at the mentioning of God, even though it's not even though no one was allowed to talk about it in the classroom, these students then wanted to have coffee with me, have lunch with me. McDonald's were everywhere. They'd take me to go to McDonald's. Right. And they'd start asking me questions about Christianity because they were just like the woman on the train said.
Even though they weren't allowed?
Oh, no. The only people that were allowed to go to church over there were foreign Christians. And they would actually have soldiers standing in front of a church and watching to see who was going in. If a person was Asian, they had to show a foreign passport that they were not proof that they were not a Chinese citizen if they were to be allowed inwards, or allowed to go on in. And if they were national, they weren't allowed to go in. And so these, just like the messenger on the train told me, these people were looking for something new to believe in. And I had not been to any kind of seminary. I did not take the job to go teach about God, nothing like that. But these people were hungry to learn. And they weren't ready for somebody like big like Billy Graham anyway. They couldn't comprehend it, but I knew enough just from Vacation Bible School as a kid to answer their simple questions.
Okay. To get them by.
Yeah, and they were fascinated with it. And that's when I realized that how God was using me to answer their questions. If it wasn't for the seizure and me being able to think about it, I might say, I can't answer your question. Not now. It's against my contract. But the fact was that I'd bring up God after those seizures. I realized God was using me to speak to these people who were lost and confused and disturbed with the world. And for the first time in my life, I saw that there was a purpose for having epilepsy. It was and it was so exciting when I made that realization, because I wanted to serve people. I wanted to do something significant, like by being a U.S. Navy pilot, and I couldn't do it. But I realized this was just as important of a mission as being a fighter pilot would have been to me when I was 18. And so
so it's amazing. It's amazing how, like, I'm totally embedded in your story right now. How you're telling me that your mission was to serve, not necessarily having to serve in the military, but your purpose was to serve in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And there you were. You had it, and I completely understand, because I feel the same. Because I've been provided, if I can say it this way, provided this opportunity. I've been given. I've lived with epilepsy, provided insights, and now I'm able to bring it forward to help others around me. Now, if I could just take what I have and just relax and just coast, but that wouldn't be me, and that doesn't sound like it's you either. So I really, my hat goes off to you, Tim.
Well, thank you, and for all your viewers, the best therapy is action. Find out what you're good at. Yes, don't you think there is? Every day there's a few seconds where, yes, I'm bitter that I can't drive. I've got to have a can of Diet Right, and my wife won't drive me to the store, and I can't go to the store to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm aggravated by that. And it's something that my neighbor doesn't have to contend with. But God gave me I've got the talent to write. I've got creativity. I know how to put together a show and do TV. And actually, it was because of my epilepsy that I got to go back to college and learn TV. My first degree was political science, and I was working in financial services. But when I lost control of my seizures because of the stress in that job, that's when I had those car wrecks, 5 and 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I lost my job. I had to return to my family, my parents. And the Illinois state government had the Department of Rehabilitative Services actually paid for my tuition, my room, board, and fees to go back and get a master's degree in another field.
Wow. So that was a huge turnaround, and actually a positive, like as you like to say, on your part. So tell me time. Yeah. So tell me something. Okay, you mentioned Illinois. What happened in Illinois? Something that you saw a man who appeared to be homeless, but as you were driving.
Yeah. It used to be I had auras where I would hallucinate, which is not uncommon for some types of seizures. Mm-hmm. And while I was growing up, I'd always see this. After having that tingly feeling and the sense of deja vu, I'd see a guy in a distance from me who looked like Tom Berenger from Platoon. He was dressed up as a soldier, and I just knew he was going to kill me. Mm. And as a little boy, I got my seizures started at the age of 18 months. And a little kid, as he's growing up, doesn't know what the word hallucination means or deja vu. But one day, I told him, I see that guy's going to kill me. And one day, watching the news reports from Vietnam, there was a soldier on TV who looked like the image in my mind. And I said, that's the man who wants to kill me. And Mom and Dad realized what was going on then.
And how old were you?
That was all the way. I saw that. I call him Commando, and I saw him all the way from the time, all through my preschool years up until my mid-20s.
Oh, wow.
So
throughout your childhood and teenage.
Yeah. Okay. The fear that manifests itself, or the fear that people feel, irrational fear, during an aura, I think if it came across with that image of the GI, because the soldier was scary. And I'd watch the evening news and see the reports from Vietnam, and those soldiers look scary. And so that's, I think, is probably how the hallucination formed in my mind. Mm-hmm. And when I lost control then in 91, I was in financial services. I was straight commission job. I didn't know where next month's rent was going to come from. And the first time I had this hallucination, I was driving my car, getting onto a Chicago expressway, and there was a guy shuffling along the road. Mm-hmm. And even though I couldn't see him, it's 9:30 at night, it's dark, and something still scared me about the guy. And so I just stepped on the accelerator to get on up the expressway to get away from the guy. And once I was on the expressway, I still had a scared feeling. I looked out the passenger window, and even though the man had appeared to be shuffling and I'm doing 65 miles an hour, the man is standing right outside my car window looking at me.
So you were going at a good speed.
Yeah. And I look at the guy, and it's me.
You?
Yeah.
Wow.
I now call him, and I write about it as homeless. Homeless was actually me, with probably about 3 weeks worth of stubble, dirty. And part of an epileptic aura is a sense of smell. I could actually smell this man's stench.
Oh yeah.
I could smell the stench, and he was
Wow.
wearing ragged shoes, wearing mismatched shoes,
Mm-hmm.
and it was more frightening. Actually, that hallucination of him was more frightening than seeing the soldier commando, because in reality, homeless could become me, because like I said, I did not know where the next month's rent was going to be coming from. So that very well could have become me.
So it's because everything was just from month to month.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I lost control. The stress of the financial services job then was so great that I went from seizures once a month to about every other day, actually every 36 hours.
Okay. Really?
And so, and like I say, I was stupid. When you're in your late 20s, you think you're invulnerable. You think you're Superman. And so I kept driving. I had 5 car accidents in 6 months.
Wow.
And I walked away from them all.
And as you said, you are a lucky man having been able to walk away from that.
Well, I didn't think I was lucky. I just saw, hey, I can't go out. I lost the job. My friends are getting a promotion. My other friends are getting married. They're getting a nice house. I got to go live with my parents in a town of 2,000 people.
It's amazing how it's amazing the perception we can see at the time when we put ourselves as vulnerable, and we can actually feel that the world is crumbling around us, and we're just so unfortunate. Or we could turn the whole story around. As I just mentioned, you were actually very fortunate that you're still here now.
Well, I had some really big help in that. A friend of mine from Chicago called me every night to see how I was.
Right.
And I was probably having an undiagnosed nervous breakdown. That's probably the state of my mind. And she just said, Tim, you walked away from those accidents. You should have been dead, killed, but you weren't. There's a reason why you're alive. Yeah, I can't tell you what it is, but God's got a mission for you. And that's where I came up with the title for the book about it.
Wow.
Was that it was a mission. And she said, I asked her, what are you talking about? She said, I don't know. But you're alive for a reason. Nothing happened. There is no such thing as a coincidence. There's a reason for everything that happens. And so I tell all your viewers when you're feeling down and depressed, take some deep breaths. Just give up. By give up, I don't mean commit suicide. I just mean admit that you don't know what you're going to do next and ask for help. And it may not come right away, but you're in the situation you are for a reason. And like for me, it was during that trial and error period for a couple of months at my parents. That's where I learned I had the chance to go back to school. And it didn't seem exciting to me at first, and it didn't change my outlook on life a whole lot, but it took time. It's just like people getting over cancer and trying to reach the 3-mile mark or the 3-year mark. And so for anyone listening to this tonight, don't be hard on yourself, and just have belief that there's some reason why this is happening to you now, and be patient. That is the biggest thing. Be patient and persistent are the 2 best things I can say for people. Right.
So there's one quote that I keep on hearing over and over and over again. It's from Tony Robbins. Does life happen to you, or does life happen for you? You choose, my friend, and you've chosen. You've clearly chosen that life is happening for you, not to you. And if we can all embrace that quote. And you just watch our lives turn around. Understand, and if something's going on, and just look at it and say, okay, what can I do with this? This is happening for a reason. I wonder why. Okay, and then move forward. I'm living with epilepsy. You're living with epilepsy. And those things have happened to us somewhat. However, it's actually in turn, we've chosen to see it as it's happening for us.
Yep.
And we've taken it, we use that as a mission to help others around us. And the statistics show that if there's 1 in 26 that will be affected by epilepsy in a lifetime.
Yeah.
1 in 26. That's huge. So those who are listening to this podcast right now, if you take this as your own mission, your involuntary mission, if I could say it.
Fine.
What if you could use this mission and help others around you? Here's what's going to happen. You're going to not only help others around you, but as you're helping them, you will sense a feeling of gratitude. You'll be gratified because of it. And you will sleep better at night. You will be more motivated to do other things. And as you're more motivated to do the other things around, your state of mind will clear up. And where do seizures come from? Up top. And once you stabilize, you get a sense of the peace in your head, and you're doing all these things, you watch, even your seizures could start residing.
Absolutely.
Things could start turning around for you all the way. All the way, my friend.
Well, have you ever heard a mathematical law? I don't know if it's created by sociologists or actuaries or what, but supposedly for every invention, 10 more inventions will happen, or every discovery, 10 more discoveries will be made.
Right.
I love history, as you heard, because but part of what got me over my trouble with the Navy, telling me to get lost, was the list of famous people who had it. And it included Julius Caesar, Napoleon, Alexander the Great. God, these guys were the emperors of the worlds of their day. And Albert Einstein had it. Sir Isaac Newton had it. Leonardo da Vinci had it. Muhammad had it. St. Paul had it. And when you look at all through history, where would we be without St. Paul coming up with his part of Christianity? Where would we be without Sir Isaac Newton coming up with the 3 laws of gravity? And so even though epileptics are 1 in 26 people, the fact that when you look at all these famous people and what they contributed to mankind, I would say that 2% of the population is responsible for 80 to 90% of mankind's civilization as we see it today.
Wow. And
where would we be if we didn't know Newton's law of gravity or Leonardo da Vinci's?
Most definitely, Tim. And as you said, you've done the research. I've seen these numbers. I've seen these personalities as well. And so when I shake my head, it's like, wow, this is just outstanding that this is actually the case. So
yeah, we've got a seizure is simply that the electricity cannot control itself. So we actually have a mind that's got too much electricity, too much power to control itself. And I would rather have a brain that's too active to control itself than one that is dead or inactive.
Right.
And once I started learning about these famous people, James Madison, President James Madison drafted the Constitution of the United States, and he had it. Teddy Roosevelt had it. In learning about these people, I like to think that epileptics are a small fraternity we're an elite fraternity. And just like people talk about the Montessori's or the Knights of Columbus or
Yes.
Masons or something. Well,
Mm-hmm.
our epilepsy, we're a small niche like that, and we have probably got 80 to 90% of the advancement of mankind were our conception. So I'm proud to be a member of the fraternity.
Yeah, and so am I. If it wasn't for the life I've lived, I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I'm sure you're not either. I mean, you're the person you are because of what you've gone through.
Do you wonder? Let me ask you. Do you wonder though what it would be like if you hadn't had epilepsy?
You know what? I've thought about that, and you know what I
Yeah.
see? I see myself amongst everyone else doing the same thing day in and day out, and just not really looking at the future, just going day by day and trying to get through that day so you can get through the next. And that's where I think I would be.
Yeah.
But because of my epilepsy, I've had a huge, a different way of thinking. I've I've done different things, and now because of the mission I have inside of me to serve. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's changed. It's made me a completely different person. Completely.
The older I get, I've been on medication now since the age of 7. So that means I've been on medication for half a century. And I got to admit, the older I get, I'm on 4 medications now, 6,000 milligrams a day.
Mhm.
And I do wonder, what would the real Tim Ulmer be like? And is there a motherboard up here that's been out of use since the age of 7 and cobwebs are growing over it? Or are there uh, several motherboards with USBs plugged into them to make it
Mhm.
work? Or
Right.
um, would I be somebody like a Bill Murray if I wasn't on this medication? Or could I be
Mhm.
somebody calculating who thinks one step ahead, uh, like a good Agatha Christie private detective or something like that? Or could I be uh, just a brilliant scientist?
Right.
I'll never know. But
Mhm.
it does make me wonder what I'd be like without this anticonvulsant depressant medication.
Right. So
And I tell my friends, hey, you think I'm on 6,000 milligrams of depressants,
mhm.
anticonvulsants a day, and you think I'm depressed? If you can't control me, maybe I take myself off my medications and see if you can handle me then.
Right. Mhm. Yeah, no kidding. It's a wow. So, hey Tim, tell me about while we're here getting closer to the end now, and actually, I had so many other questions but I just we're kind of running out of time. But what I want to touch on is a little bit about your epilepsy gangster, and then your book. So the
Okay.
epilepsy
Uh,
gangster. Can you explain that a little? What it's
yeah.
all about?
Uh, a woman who's starting the new Inspiration TV network. It's going to be on Roku and Prime this year.
Mhm.
Asked me, would you like to create a show about epilepsy? Well, that's like asking a kid if you'd like to go to a candy store.
Mhm.
And there is enough information online, in my opinion, about new medications, new treatments, doctors, and procedures. There's all kinds of stuff like that. But when I was going through my bad times, what did it for me was knowledge about what other people with epilepsy had and
Mhm.
how epilepsy did not stop Julius Caesar from becoming emperor of the world.
Right.
It
Right.
didn't stop Albert Einstein from the theory of relativity.
Mhm.
And so um, what an epilepsy gangster does is we show people to every episode, we introduce two people who who've been able to have happy and productive lives despite their epilepsy. we focus on their accomplishments, and we'll let people tell us about the bad times, just as a point of reference to how good things are now in this person that we see.
Okay.
And people need, with having examples before them and having mentors to talk to, that's as much a part of getting control over epilepsy as taking your medicines on time. You've got to have, and I call it gangster for one thing, because if I'm hosting the show, people have got to wonder why my voice cuts out. And everyone tells me my voice sounds like Marlon Brando's Don Corleone, the Godfather.
Right.
I actually do the TV show dressed in a tuxedo like Don Corleone.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Neat.
And it's epilepsy is like a gangster in the sense that epilepsy robs you of opportunities in relationships. Epilepsy steals from your retirement funds, from your college funds,
Yeah.
from your monthly budgets, whether to buy medicine or buy food, and
Right.
it can kill people.
Mm-hmm.
Just whether it kills them by having a seizure when they fall in the shower, whether they have a seizure when they're driving and they hit somebody, or they fall off a ladder and die.
Right.
It kills them. So epilepsy does everything to people just that a gangster like Al Capone or Don Corleone would do. And so that's how I come up with the name Epilepsy Gangster. And so I've gone to the underworld as being my own gangster to take on Epilepsy Gangster in his world. And me and my gang are going to kick him out, take over his territory.
All right. I like it. I like it, Tim. How about your book, Involuntary Mission?
Yeah, Involuntary Mission in China with a Thorn in the Flesh is about how I found my purpose for having epilepsy while I was in China, as I said earlier. That to me was as great. Was as monumental of a milestone in my life as somebody having surgery, because for the first time in my life, I realized after 40 years of being epileptic, I could see that there was a purpose why I was epileptic. There was a purpose into it, and it wasn't just a misfortune or a disability. And and I called in thorn in the flesh in reference to 2 Corinthians 12.
Right.
Paul asked God 3 times, remove this thorn from my flesh. But God said no. He refused to do so because in my weakness, people will see God's strength. And so that's why the subtitle of the book, and many people believe that the thorn in the flesh that St. Paul was referring to was epilepsy of his own.
Really? That's amazing.
We're in good company. You and I are in good company.
So where can I find this book?
You can. It's on Amazon, but you can go to my website, simply timulmer.com.
Right.
And there's a icon for books, and you can order it that way.
So this is the book. So wow, that's amazing, Tim, that you're doing all this, and so many people think this is I've got the condition and I can't do anything. Well, here I am. You and I are both chatting online. You've gone extremely beyond what most people would do, let alone someone with a condition. And I feel I've done the same. Now, and this is just living proof that whether you're living with epilepsy or not, you can move forward. You can get things done. And if I'm correct, I remember you saying something, Tim, about your series will have something to do with that. Yeah.
Yeah. In addition to featuring 2 people every episode, we're also going to have our third segment, our closing segment, is we'll give a background of a famous person who had it. Okay. We won't reveal who the person is until we give you all these nice facts and
Oh, surprise.
jaw-dropping achievements. People
Leaving us hanging.
Why did this person do this? And then at the final end, we'll reveal who that famous person is.
Wow.
And I'm wearing
I
a
like the
purple
suspense.
shirt. Tell me something. Are you a Prince fan or Elton John?
I love Elton John.
Did you know that he was epileptic?
I did.
He is epileptic?
Yes, he is.
And Prince is. That's why Prince did Purple Rain.
Uh-huh.
And
I didn't know that. I didn't know until he passed.
Yeah. So, and Beethoven had epilepsy. Not only was he deaf, but he was epileptic.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
Wow.
we are in very good company. We have no reason to be ashamed.
We are.
And Prince, I love Prince's story because he didn't like the way epilepsy put him down. He didn't like the way people saw him because he was epileptic. And unfortunately, when I've read about his life, he grew up very bitter and very unhappy. But he knew he could play music. But he was motivated by anger. He used his anger though to fuel him to become a better musician.
Oh, okay.
And that's what finally put him. It was that hard perfectionism that he was seeking to show that he was better than the people thought he could be.
Okay.
And that's what finally made him become one of the greatest recording stars of history.
Wow, amazing.
And so, no matter how bad how bad discouraged you feel tonight, don't be. Read up on some of these people. Calm down, make a list, take time. Don't do this overnight, but take a list of what your talents are. What do you like to do? Think about who the people are that can help you find such places. And hang out with positive people. If you hang out with people who try to protect you and hold you down, you're never going to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
If you go out and you're with happy, social, productive people who like being among other people, that's going to wear off on you. That's going to have just as much. That's going to be just as. That's going to have just as much of an effect on you as 5 cc's of adrenaline taken 3 times a day.
Right.
And so just do that and don't give up. There is a reason why you're epileptic. Find out what it is and don't rush it. Be patient.
Thank you very much. Wow. Thank you so much, Tim. That's what this hour's gone by like so quick, and I could speak hours with you, but it's coming to an end. But thanks everyone for being here with us, and just please keep on moving forward. Life out there is awesome if you want it to be. Thanks again, everyone.
Absolutely.
There you go, Tim. Done.
Oh,
job.
I think we hit everything that we did last time.
And more.
Think so?
Yeah, actually, the questions we had last time weren't the same. I focused on some of the things that you had mentioned to me, like in between.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So, like we spoke about a little bit about China, about your book, and then different things, and you went on with some of the things that you've done, and then I brought up the thing about the quote that I read in your book about the man that you saw, and I remember you talking about that, which was you. So which gave people a perception of what really, this guy's really like me, or I can relate, and that's what it's all about, right? Yeah, perfect. So
I feel bad when I go to some of those chat rooms,
right.
And gosh, there's some people that they just hang out. I think somebody will write in, well, my girlfriend does not love me because I have epilepsy or something, and somebody will give them a thumbs up, or they'll show tears crying. But the people who are making the comments are not doing anything themselves either. And so they're just pouring sympathy over each other instead of lighting a candle underneath them.
Yes, I remember you telling me about that. They're not helping themselves out. by saying that. Yeah, no, I get it. However, but the thing about this, that here's what we can't forget. We cannot forget that though most around us who are living with epilepsy are not in the same space as we are mentally. And this is why we're here to educate others so that they can bring up a step. You were just talking about mentors. This is why they need mentors. They need someone who can guide them in the right direction. Without guidance, they will continue on writing stuff like this and get others to feel sympathetic towards them, not empathetic. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And I really don't think it's that big of a deal, but some people are just so scared of their shame for it that they're afraid to talk to strangers, or they're afraid to hang out with people. And it's really, unless they do that, their cycle will not be broke, and that's the way they'll live the rest of their lives.
If you look at a moment, let's just say, what can I use as an example? You're job hunting. The very first time you go to talk with someone, oh gosh, what do I say? How do I do it? How do I say it? And you get there, you get to the interview, and you're shaking in your boots. And you walk out, oh, this was the worst interview I've ever done. And you do it again. Then, it's not as bad. Then by the fifth time, it's no big deal. And why is that? Because you've conditioned yourself that it's okay. You're just going to repeat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you break away from that pattern, it's going to become hard again. And that's why people are afraid to talk with anyone. And I can relate. I was the guy who was standing behind the curtains in second, third, fourth grade, listening to people talking. I just didn't want to be seen. I understand that. I've been there.
Yeah.
And today, I'll talk to anyone. And because I'm all outside of this, I'm also a public speaker.
Yeah.
Because I talk to groups of hundreds.
And you never told me that.
Oh, yeah, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And you know what I enjoy? I enjoy seeing the faces and people are just getting closer and attentive and listening into my stories. And I've been doing this for the last couple of years now. I've been talking to groups of over 100.
I'd love to do it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's the same principle. The first time, oh God, I couldn't even talk to people one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was the guy behind that curtain.
Yeah.
But I broke the ice, and then I started talking to people 3 or 4. But it's when I started sharing my story with others, making a difference in other people like yourself. That's when I made a difference to me. When I felt it come back, that gratitude I was talking about, it's exactly what happened. And same thing goes with everyone. Every one of us living with epilepsy can break through if they want to. It's hard.
Yeah.
Not saying it's easy, but nothing of significance has ever come easy to anyone.
I don't know if I told you this last time we talked, but I wish I had 8x10 glossy of Lou Gossett Jr. As Sergeant Joe Stryker in Officer and a Gentleman.
Right.
Do you remember that character? Did you see Officer and a Gentleman with Richard Gere?
Unfortunately not. I can't visualize.
Richard Gere is in the U.S. Navy Officer Candidate School. And Lou Gossett Jr. is a U.S. Marine Corps drill sergeant. Mm-hmm. And he's very mean. Okay. And so through the whole movie, he and Richard Gere are fighting more or less. And okay. if you're familiar, like with what boot camp is for military training, it's the purpose of guys like this, Sergeant Joe Foley, to tear down these recruits, tear down their existing personalities so they can build up stronger personalities that work as a team. And Lou Gossett he got an Oscar for that role.
Mm-hmm.
If you like a good story about personal challenge, Officer and a Gentleman, 1983.
Yeah, that's an older movie.
Yeah,
I remember the title.
Yeah, back when Richard Gere still had all black hair.
Yes. Yep.
I'm scared that I can remember. It scares me now when I can remember a movie from almost 40 years ago and that I was watching as I'm a legal adult.
Yep. No, for sure. And I know. I think the same way. And
same with Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
The same
I think
year.
back in the early 80s, it's not a big deal. It was back in 1980. But then when you're looking back, that was 40 years ago.
Then when you realize maybe your dentist was not alive yet.
Oh, don't say that. Uh-huh. For sure. This is why we have to stay active, stay in shape. Mm-hmm. And did I tell you about the triangle that I follow?
No.
I didn't. The triangle I follow is something like this here. See this?
Yeah.
Okay, is it written? Stress. Is it upside down?
Oh, diet and
try this. Is it this way better?
No, you had it right the first time. I just couldn't read your writing about what
diet / fitness. So I reduce my stress. Reduce my stress.
Yeah.
Rest at this corner.
Oh, rest.
Okay. And my diet and fitness. And I need to keep all these three in check to be able to function.
Yeah.
One of them is lacking, then something's going to happen. And what I mean by something is that, and I've witnessed it actually not too long ago, where I was following this triangle, and I was going to the gym, and I decided to go to the gym a little bit earlier. And I'd get up at 4 a.m. every day. And I was at the gym by 5. Workout from 5 to 6. And at 6 o'clock, I'd leave and I go to work. I do that every day. And about 3 weeks in, all of a sudden, in order to do this, I needed to go to bed at 8. So 8 o'clock to 4, which gave me my full 8 hours, because that's what I need to live on.
Yeah.
So, but it wouldn't always happen because family needed attention. And sometimes it'd be like maybe 10 o'clock. And all of a sudden, one night, I was in bed and I woke up. And I had goosebumps crawling up my right leg. Full-fledged goosebumps. My stomach started to turn. Feeling fear. And I was getting these partial complex seizures. Had come back, were in form of a fear. My mouth started getting heavy in saliva. And I said, what is going on here? This hasn't happened to me in so long. And I revisited. Sure enough, I was missing out on my sleep.
Yeah.
I stopped everything. Everything went away. Yep. And I figured out a way to reduce my stress to nothing. Gone.
Yeah.
Yep. I reduce my stress. I make sure I've got a good diet. No, the biggest thing about the diet, sugar.
Oh, don't! I can't let you say that too loudly so my wife doesn't hear me or hear you. She's taken so much food away from me.
Right.
And there's a genetic tendency for diabetes in my family, so it's probably good. But gosh, I would love to have a Subway sandwich, big chocolate chip cookie at least twice a day. I would love to have a hot fudge sundae every night. And since she's the driver, many times she'll go to the grocery store without me. And so I don't have any say on the snacks that I want around the house.
Right.
And I gotta admit, there's almost nothing sweet in my pantry upstairs for a snack.
Okay.
But
I found that after some time, I'm not even looking forward to it.
God.
Yeah. You can't break away?
Not me.
No.
I'm doing it. I'm probably like an alcoholic. I'm staying away. I'm on the wagon.
Okay.
But
right.
That doesn't mean I don't want it. I would love to have a Coke, cherry vanilla Coke. I would love that right now.
Okay. Right.
But no, it sounds dumb, but part of what's caused me to cut down on my soft drinks and stuff is as I've aged, it's my prostate has enlarged.
Okay. All right.
It makes me pee more often. And so I have to have all my drinking, water, and stuff like that done by 8 p.m. Or otherwise it's going to
get up all night.
Get up at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. So
maybe that's what my problem is.
I don't drink soft drinks after about 6:30.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't drank soft drinks in years.
Aspartame, the sweetener than all the Diet Cokes, Diet Pepsi.
Yeah,
aspartame is a big trigger for seizures.
Yeah, that's the other one I guess stay away from. So you got sugars I don't take, and aspartame I don't take. There's the stevia is one that's apparently is okay. It's not bad.
I use it all the time.
Do you? Okay.
My wife's Chinese, so she doesn't like sweet food. But,
okay.
Oh gosh, I want a cherry pie so bad.
Can you just close your eyes, please?
Oh.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's why. But yeah, thinking of late drinks, I got to get up 5 o'clock to go to my Bible study.
Morning?
We meet at actually open the door like at 6:30, but my ride picks me up at 5:45.
Really? Okay.
And so that means I got to get up about 5.
All right. So you and I are in the same boat because I'm up at 4:45, and right now I'm past my bedtime.
Me too.
All right.
Well, actually, I'd still be in bed but I'd be reading for.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, Dan, I hope this. How many people did you say is following your cast?
I've got a couple thousand to 3,000 that are following me quite well.
Great.
Yeah, and then I've got that's actually through Facebook, and I've got others. Maybe another I don't know how many in Instagram. And I have YouTube, which is going to be going. This is going to be going on LinkedIn. I've got quite a few there.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm also hearing my dog knocking the bell. That means my women are in bed. So
all right, so it's time. Okay.
9 p.m. it's my duty to take him out for his last walk.
Okay, Tim. So it was a pleasure once again, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Me too.
All right, my friend. Have a good night.
Take care, buddy.